In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Dave and Jeremy to talk all about their new game that's on Kickstarter called Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game. So hang on until after our very short Kickstarter Corner to find out all about Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Game X-Pert Dice for real tabletop RPG. They bring good luck. Original metal dice created from pure natural metals. Game and Games Interior. That's right, the pure natural metal dice. They look awesome and they can be part of your gaming going forward if you jump on the fun of this great Kickstarter, as this project has reached its funding goal. In fact, they've exceeded their funding goal, and there's still 4 more days for this to go, for you to jump in on the fun as this project goes through Wednesday the 19th of December. So definitely check out Game X-Pert Dice for real tabletop RPG, currently on the Kickstarters.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Glad you can make it. Go ahead and take your coat off and stay a while, at least we hope you will. Especially we have to say this as we have an influx of listeners up north in Canada. Thank you for joining Getting Geeky with Game Relief. At least I hope you're glad you joined us. And a lot of these new listeners might be coming over because they found out about a giveaway that we've teamed up with the Giveaway Geek, as well as Logan Chop's Reviews and Helena Plays Games, to bring one lucky winner or listener, one lucky person, whatever you want to be called, a copy of Dinosaur Island. This giveaway is worldwide, so we've also had an influx in people listening from Turkey as well. So make sure you go ahead, and if you're already listening, make sure you go ahead and check out the link that'll lead you there, or go to our website at gamerleafgo.com. Click on the current giveaway tab, or also the post at the bottom of this post. We'll try to leave that in there as well. But go ahead and enter and try to win yourself a copy of Dinosaur Island. Since you're already subscribed to the podcast, might as well do it. If you're hearing this for the first time and you're not subscribed, make sure you do that, and then make sure you go ahead and check out the giveaway as well. You get extra points for doing just that. But let's go ahead and dive in to find out a couple games that are currently on the Kickstarters, and then we'll dive into the meat of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, our interview portion of the show, shall we?
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaf's computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leafs.
Like I said, we're going to make this short and sweet for you. Unfortunately, there's not too many games on Kickstarter, but there's always some, and we're bringing you some on today's episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, our Kickstarter Corner, like we said, and like she's saying. This one, you definitely don't want to dilly-dally. At the time of this recording, there's only 10 hours to go to get in on the fun of this project. It will bring a little bit of fun to your wintertime enjoyment. Eden, City of Sagaar and Snowmen Christmas Special Edition. It's a brand new faction for Eden the game, the best skirmish game ever. The Sagaarians faction will come into the wasteland. This is from Happy Games Factory, and like I said, there's only 10 hours to get in on the fun of this. Project ends Saturday the 15th of December. So there's 2 factions, the Sagaarian people, as well as the Snowman. Yeah, as well as the Snowman. What I like is Frosty is not always your cuddly snowman anymore. in this game, especially because you have the Snowman kill team. That's the faction I want. Never really been into skirmish games, but I would definitely be willing to pick it up to get the Snowman kill team to bring to my tabletop. I might have to reach out to Happy Games Factory and see what they can work out for Getting Geeky with Game Relief. But yeah, go check out Eden City of Sagaar and Snowman Christmas Special Edition going on the Kickstarter through today, Saturday the 15th of December at 7:01 a.m. So if you're sleeping, I apologize. Maybe they'll do a late pledge. And if you're awake, run over to the Kickstarters right now. Pause the episode or just click on the link in the show notes while you're listening and see everything that's good about this quick Kickstarter from Happy Games Factory. Because such a rush that you got in going to back Eden City of Sagaar and Snowman, we'll give you a little bit more time on this next one. It's from Sentient Games. It's Natural Selection, a fun, educational board game that is suited for players of all ages, a game of survival, dominance, and sentience. In this game, you get to choose if you want to be an omnivore, a herbivore, or a carnivore. I'd probably choose a carnivore to tell you the truth. And you've heard of survival of the fittest? Well, in this game, to win, there's only one way to avoid extinction, and that is become the fittest for survival. So, survival of the fittest. And this game, I just noticed this, it ranges from ages 8 to 80, so I can still play it. Don't tell Princess Leaf I said that, because they think I'm getting quite old. I still got another 40 years that I can play Natural Selection. 41 to be exact. But anyways, check out Natural Selection from Sentient Games on Kickstarter through Monday the 7th of January. And then last but not least, on Kickstarter from Gabe Barrett is the Final Flicktier relaunch. Boldly go where no asymmetric faction has gone before in this 4X game, featuring a unique dice flicking mechanism for movement and combat. They funded in 12 parsecs, I believe that was 12 hours, and in the updates of this game, the first update, our interview, you can go ahead and click on it. We're right below the picture of the alien Santa Claus. I didn't know they have alien Santa Clauses until I saw this. But go ahead and click on the interview link and you'll be able to find out a little bit more about this. You could very likely become the 300th backer. At the time of this recording, there's only 298 backers. So go ahead and jump over and check out the Final Flicktier relaunch. There's 21 days to go to get on the fun of this project as it goes through Friday, the 4th of January. So don't dilly-dally on this neither. Check out the Final Flicktier. And reminder, if you haven't, go enter our giveaway over on our current giveaway page. You could win Dinosaur Island, coming to you from myself, the Giveaway Geek, and Helena Plays Board Games, and Logan Chops Reviews. Man, are his chops getting big. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this interview with another Kickstarter creator, or game creator, if you will, that's already in progress. We'll catch you on the flip side of this interview.
Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Come with us to the Kingdom of Gardania. Once upon a time, on a beautiful sunny day, the royal children of Gardania were enjoying a picnic in their courtyard.
My, what a fantastic day for a picnic it is, isn't it, brother?
Why, yes. It looks like everything is in bloom.
Suddenly, the evil Lord Blackthorn cast a spell over the garden, twisting it into a wicked field of thorns.
Now I have the children hostage. The king and queen will do my bidding. The kingdom will be mine.
Oh, curses! We're trapped! What are we going to do?
Every princess for herself.
What about my sandwich? Where's the beef?
But the king and queen held strong.
We will hold strong.
And they called in good wizards from near and far to free their children. Good wizards near and far, come free our children. And sages came from across the land. Wow, And they came as fast as they could. Didn't I just say that?
The wizard who can rescue our children from this wicked thicket of thorns will win the favor of our court.
You, as one of the garden sages here to answer the call, will have 3 goals. First, to rescue the children. Second, to restore as much of the courtyard as possible. And third, to exit the field of thorns alive. You will use your magic to forge into the maze and build paths to the children. Once inside, you can trailblaze new corridors or reshape existing pathways to your will. For each rescued child, the king and queen will generously reward your bravery.
I've come to rescue you.
Oh, thank goodness!
Whoever restores the greatest stretch of courtyard stepping stones will also curry favor with the king and queen. Finally, whomever emerges from the maze alive will also gain points in their favor.
Wait, there's a chance we won't get out of this alive?
What? No, I didn't say that.
But you just said.
Nonsense.
But I like being alive.
Only if you're lucky.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is a story of Pathwise, a dynamic maze-building game that's currently on Kickstarter. And tonight we're lucky enough to have on the creators and masterminds behind this great game. Is that correct? Is that how you guys fall in line with this great game, Jeremy and Dave?
It is. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. It's very much how we feel.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm glad we could make it work out. Now, before we get into everything, let's go ahead and rewind a little bit. We don't have to go back too terribly far, but how did you guys get into playing tabletop board games? Maybe we'll start with you, Dave, and then Jeremy next.
So I'd been playing with my group of friends at home for a number of years, and then met Jeremy one day while I was at work. He came in. I was at a prototyping shop, and he came in with a project that he was working on, which turned out to be the very beginnings of Pathwise as it evolved. We got to talking and hit it off, and then shortly thereafter founded Silversmith Games, and here we are now.
Awesome. And what about yourself, Jeremy? How did you get into playing tabletop board games?
For me, I've always loved games. We moved around a lot in my family as kids, and it was my brother and my sister and I oftentimes. And we just played games to entertain ourselves when we just had ourselves around. We lived in a lot of different areas, and we are still close today, and we still play a lot of games together. I just enjoy the competition along with the actual connection with other people. So it has kept me playing games this whole time. I don't always have to win. I just have to have fun with friends.
Well, that's always good. That's what games are for, to have fun. Sometimes people don't necessarily do that, but do you guys have a current favorite game that you guys are each playing nowadays?
I think we're going to both say the same game, so I'm going to let Dave take this one.
Oh, well, for me, it's I just recently played Photosynthesis for the first time, and that's a lot of fun. But you can also always talk me into a game of Avalon or Crossfire.
We played, Dave and I played Photosynthesis together, actually, while I was visiting my folks in Boston, and had a great time. It is one of my favorite games right now as well, and I was happy to introduce him to it because I just love the logic of it. To me, a lot of times the games are fun when they have to use logic and spatial planning and all that kind of stuff to like come up with the actual gameplay rather than just luck of cards and stuff.
Well, there you go. For some reason, I thought you guys were going to say Pathwise was your favorite game.
Well, yes, of course Pathwise is my favorite game, and I love playing it. That's one of the best things about Pathwise. It's a game that I love playing. Every time it's a different game. It's never the same game twice. It's actually a lot of fun.
Well, there you go. So with that, being designers and all, if there was one thing you could do to change or enhance photosynthesis, what would that be?
Well, the first thing that came to mind for me was I was wondering about the addition of like weather patterns and how that would affect things if there were, say, like an overcast, cloudy sky or a rainstorm. Although at the same time, it feels like that game is so well balanced and finely tuned that I also don't want to touch it at all.
I actually wouldn't change much of anything. I actually really love Photosynthesis because for me, it's a well thought out, well designed game from just a design standpoint. I am red-green colorblind. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why Dave and I really started chatting, because he can see green. In fact, don't tell him this, but like that's one of the only reasons really why we became friends and business partners, because I don't see colors properly. And he doesn't know this, but that's the reason why I needed a business partner.
The truth is revealed.
Oh boy, the truth comes out on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. There we go. You heard it here first.
Yeah, but one of the things I love about Photosynthesis and many games like it is that people are taking into consideration color blindness. And I saw it the first time, and I was kind of scared of it because, looking at it the first time, you see all these trees and this blob of colors, or at least that's the way I see it, is just a mishmash of colors. But then once you start really looking at it, all the trees are different shapes, and you can easily distinguish between them. So even when everything is laid out on the board, I can still tell which trees are mine. And to me, that's kind of important. I hate a game that I get everything laid out and then I can't find my piece amongst all the moving pieces, because everything is the same color to me. That's really annoying.
Yeah, I hear you. Although I don't have color blindness. One of my favorite games is Splendor, and we have really bad lighting. So, and some of the pieces, the blue and the green, they look really the same, and the shape is not all that distinguishable, at least to me. So I struggle to know which one's which, and yeah, it's a whole rigmarole. But yeah, so I hear you, even though I don't have color blindness. So that's good that you were able to bring Dave on with you.
He does bring a lot of other skills.
That's all I bring to the table. But not really. Well, to springboard off of the idea of sort of a logical framework, I in games like an element of chaos, I feel like that's what makes games interesting to me, but it's really easy to get wrong. So, for instance, like I could say on the third round of this game, then I could say if you roll a prime number, then every second player skips their turn. And that's an interesting and chaotic twist, but it's also kind of contrived and stressful and takes away the perception of control from the players. Instead, I believe a better approach would be to like create a game with a consistent foundation of mechanics, a minimal framework of rules, and an emphasis on both player autonomy and uncertainty, where I'm not guaranteed to be able to predict an opponent's next move, which is, I don't know, that sounded, I'm not sure how that came out, but that's exactly the reason why I like games like Avalon or The Resistance. It's something where no individual player has complete information. So there's a bunch of...
One of the things that we have going for us in Pathwise too is that it is a lot of controlled chaos. We have players that have 5 different moves that they can make in their turn, and you never have any control over what any other of the other players will do. You can't see their cards or spells that they have to be able to move across the maze that they're building together. But each turn is a lot of chaos. You have 5 different opportunities in each of your turns to create a little bit of new chaos. You don't know which way the maze is going to move or shift or turn, or if you are going to stay on the maze with everybody else or get cut from the maze. The players have a lot of control over the chaos itself. You don't know exactly how it's going to come out, but when it is your turn, you have the opportunity to make as much as you want.
So how does that affect somebody like myself? I hear I suffer from AP, or analysis paralysis, and so I would have 5 choices. How does that affect people with AP?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a very good question. The game is based on the premise that there are children lost in a hedge of thorns. You're a good wizard that has been called in by the king and queen of the magical land to go reshape these thorns into a maze of hedges, and then rescue the children and then exit alive. It is basically shape recognition and maze building all at the same time. you don't have a right answer at any given time. You are able to only control your little bit of, let me rephrase this. You're only able to control so much. You have 5 moves that you can make during your turn. You never know if they're going to be the right one or not. So the best part is you just get to try. You get to keep on moving forward. You are going to end up encountering everybody else's turns before you get to go again, and you don't know exactly where you're going to end up. So you do your best each time. Once you realize that there is no right answer for your turn, the game becomes a lot more fun.
Well, that's good to hear. So, per se, we were to sit down and play Pathwise, what would my turn look like? What are those 5 opportunities I have?
The deck is separated between 2 different types of cards. You have maze pieces, which can have anywhere between 1 little path on it to 9 different little paths on it, all interconnected. So you could move 1 space, or you could move 2 spaces, or you could move up to 6 spaces, depending on how you lay out those little maze pieces. Everybody builds off of each other's maze pieces as the maze grows. In that same deck, though, there are also spell cards. There are cards like Whirl, which will allow you to take any one of the cards and turn it inside the same 2 blocks that it occupies. There's a card called Swap, where a wizard plays it, it will swap 2 pieces from across the board from each other. There's a spell like Halt, which makes somebody stop in their tracks, essentially, and it becomes a wall that people can move around and use offensively or defensively. You have 5 of those cards. You don't know if you're going to have maze pieces or all spells or all maze pieces or a mixture of both. But once you have your 5 cards, you can lay out those 5 cards in any way, shape, or form that you want. Once you start moving down the path, if you move down the path 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, you can take a spell in the middle of moving, turn the card that you're on, place a new card, can move on to that card, scooch it a spot, place another card, move on to that card, and continue moving all the way until you either reach a child or you run out of spaces to move on.
How do we go about winning the game as criteria for that?
So you earn points in 3 different ways. The easiest 2 ways to earn points are by rescuing children. You get 5 points for rescuing a child. Exiting the maze will allow you points in the order that you leave the maze in. If you're playing a 4-player game, the first player to leave the maze gets 15 points. The second player to leave the maze gets 10 points. And the third player to leave the maze gets 5 points. And then the last player, once there's only 1 player left in the maze, the game is over. So those 2 are very straightforward. The third way to get the points is the way to get the most points, and it's the hardest one to explain. We call it the longest line. If you, wherever you are in the maze, are still able to trace a line between you and the starting point, you get points for each of the spaces between you and the starting point. Each space will have a little stepping stone on it. You count the stepping stones, pointing it out to the entire table around you, counting each one, and for each one that you can count, you get a point. At the end of the game, you get points only for the longest line that you have counted so far. So if your longest line is 35 pips long or 35 stepping stones long, you get 35 points at the end. And that by far outweighs the points of rescuing children or exiting the maze, but those 2 definitely help make winners or losers once you get all the points counted.
And does everybody have a different color pip, or is there a way to stop them from getting a super long path, or how do I go about sabotaging my neighbor?
Well, that's part of the beauty of the game. So the pips are universal and they belong to the board. But one of the terms in a few board games that I've heard of recently is co-competitive gameplay, where similar to like some strategies in Chinese checkers, you kind of rely on your other players to help kind of collaboratively create this large path, but you at the same time are still endeavoring to create the longest path by yourself. And so you can't do that all as a single character effectively. So it plays on the idea of striking the balance of the right level of collaboration versus competition.
Okay, that's good because we and my family, we co-op, they're okay, but mainly we like the competitive. So that's good to kind of have both the elements in there for people who might like both of them. So that's awesome that you guys did that.
It's an interesting mix.
For sure.
At some point in time, you were going to rely upon your fellow wizards to help build the maze larger, but you still have to remember that you're going to end up having to use a spell at some point in time to sever their connection between where they are and the starting point.
So who gets to count the pips? Like, I'm trying to imagine that in my mind. Because like, wouldn't everybody, if they're all the same, couldn't anybody count the longest one, or is it however far away you get from the door? Or?
Well, that's where the spells come into play, because you can actually turn someone's card around on them, or scoot them off of the line, or put a wall between them and the line. At some point in time, your line is going to be disrupted. So it's a delicate balance between letting the line grow altogether and being the last person standing on it at any given time.
Oh, okay, so I think that makes a little bit more sense. So that's awesome. Now, during play testing, was there ever anything you guys had to scrap because it just wouldn't work for the game?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a discovery during some early playtesting where one of the first players in the group placed the entrance and exit thresholds adjacent to each other at one of the corners of the board, which effectively broke the game. It ended the gameplay before some of the players had been able to take their first turn, because this one person was able to get in and out of the maze so early.
Like right on their first turn, and nobody else could play?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, so we explicitly fixed that with the grid layout and reworked the rules a bit. But we're also currently testing out the use of dead end path cards that I think when paired with a few of the spells in the game can make for some pretty interesting challenges. But we're still exploring how best that'll be utilized.
One of the things about the two of us is that David is a little more competitive than I am. I'm a little more cooperative.
That is not true.
It's a little true. You're the one with the idea for the dead ends in the first place, Bub.
Okay, all right. It's chaos, and that's what I like.
Yes, and to me that chaos just completely upturns my perfectly balanced little world. But therein lies the beauty of our cooperation. Actually, I would have thought of dead ends without Dave around. I wouldn't have ever put them in. But
you always get where you're going right away. You don't ever have to stop for directions.
I am a strong advocate for Google Maps.
Yes, I get lost. But
oh boy, so you ran down a couple dead ends and you didn't want to include them in the game. So good thing Dave was there.
Yeah, Dave had the idea to include things like dead ends just to up the competition a little bit here and there. So that way, essentially what you can do is enter into a dead end, and if you have the proper spell card, you can turn it and then exit the dead end and continue on the path, thus creating a wall behind you and blocking your competitors from following you, essentially. And that sounds both really fun now that I think about it, but also on my first blush, it sounds really mean. But as Dave likes to point out, it's also just gameplay, and it is a little bit of introduction of chaos. So I'm looking forward to testing it.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Yeah, so that sounds like pretty cool. Something probably something that would happen to me. I mean, one that usually ends up losing the games. When it comes to Pathwise, yeah, when it comes to Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game, what would you guys say you're most proud of?
Well, this is our as a company our first game out of the gate. So what I was going to say was I'm proud of the process sort of by which everything's sort of come together. But I think this was built from the right approach, which sounds kind of obtuse. So let me try to break that down a bit. More to the point, I like that the initial concept crystallized into the game that it is today, and it was born from an idea for a set of gameplay mechanics, which is arguably the most essential quality for any game worth playing. So at its core, we knew that we had something robust and engaging enough to be a game worth pursuing and even establishing our reputation as a company. And from there, we had a lot of fun then determining the theme and the narrative for the game's setting. And we had the good fortune to meet Rana Gaynor, who's the artist who's been kind of fleshing out all of the assets and the artwork, and has given shape to the whole character of the game. So that was a long-winded way of saying that the gameplay is one of the strongest qualities. And then Pathwise really comes to life once the players begin to chain together these novel sequences of spells and path cards.
Awesome. What about yourself, Jeremy? What are you most proud of when it comes to Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game?
For me, I think it's, in all honesty, I think I'm just actually mostly proud of Dave and myself. We both have had a lot of life happen to us this year, and yet our collaboration and Silversmith Games has still happened, and we are still going forward with creating this game. In all honesty, I think that's the proudest thing that I can hold my head up high and say that we are continuing to pursue this and having fun along the way. But for the game itself, actually, I think my proudest aspect is the story and the artwork itself. When the game was first conceived, I had laid out all these lines and dots and showed them to Dave, and that's what they were. They were just blue lines with yellow dots on them on a square board. And I love logic. I can draw lines and dots all days and make them into any variety of shapes that you want. I will figure out how to connect them into whatever is necessary, a maze, a structure, whatever. But I didn't see the story therein. And so just by working together with Dave, we started tossing around ideas, and somewhere the idea was tossed out. Well, what if it's a hedge maze? What if there are kids lost in it? And then from there, it just blew up into a whole story about the royal children and an evil wizard. And then once we had that, we were able to take it. We were fortunate to find Rana Gaynor, our fantastic artist, and give her pretty steep order to say, look, we have 11 characters and we have 12 characters. We really want one of those characters to be a dog. So we have 11 characters and a dog.
I'm sure we were not clients.
And we weren't clients at the time. She took the job knowing full well what it was. We have these 11 characters that we want from. We don't want any one character to be from the same location in this magical land. Can you draw us a broad spectrum of what this magical realm looks like? And if you look at the characters on our Kickstarter page or on our Facebook page or on our website, you'll see that there are no two characters alike. All the royal children, all of the wizards, they all come from someplace different. And it is a very robust cast, and I love that. I love the strength in the diversity of the characters.
Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't look like the theme's just pasted on, so that's always nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, when we chose the theme of having the wizard and the hedge maze and all that kind of stuff, we all of a sudden were able to tack on extra things. Like right now, we're working on expansion pack 1, which yes, it hasn't been funded as of today, as of this recording, but we already have an idea to have Blackthorn, which in the story is the wizard that creates the thorns in the first place. We have Blackthorn as a playable character in Expansion 1, and he will be able to introduce even more chaos. His means of winning, it seems, will be different than the other wizards, but he will add a whole new level of complexity to the whole thing. We wouldn't have that if it was just lines and dots. There are no wizards with lines and dots.
Yeah, not that I know of, yeah.
Although I'll say that to your point of not just sort of tacking on a theme, in arriving at the theme that we've chosen, that's sort of allowed us to explore the story, which has then worked in reverse or back propagated to trying out new combinations of additional lines and dots. So the theme and the mechanics have had like a great symbiotic relationship of working off one another.
You can feel free to edit this one out for your podcast, but we had even tossed around ideas for having like a Halloween theme where it's just bits of a child, and we're never going to do that. Like, yeah, if you win if you can reconstruct the child from all the different pieces.
Humpty Dumpty.
Exactly. But the idea is that like the logic and the gameplay is sound, and you can overlay lots of different stories to it, but the storyline that we chose for it actually helps enhance those original lines and dots. And the lines and dots wouldn't be... The theme that we chose takes that original logic and runs with it, and really just builds on it.
Yeah, it looks like it does. So you don't necessarily just have the lines and dots. Now, with all the game projects on Kickstarter, what makes you guys' game pop or stand out as one of my audience should go check out and then back if they like what they see?
This is our first title that we're publishing as a company, and right out of the gate, we knew we wanted to be we wanted to start with a family-friendly game. Growing up, I used to dread playing Boggle with my older sister and parents because I just didn't nearly have the same vocabulary that they did. My younger brother, when he played, had the innovative solution to make up his own words, which I figure is at least something that gave him the creative victory. But the solution here with Pathwise is that it's both the game that I wish I had when I was a kid and the game that I want to play with my peers today, which is to say that it has a versatile appeal. We've made the game broadly accessible in a few ways by giving all of the wizards, or I call them sages, the ability to cast any of the spells, which kind of democratizes the player's abilities regardless of turn order. And we've also suggested a few scaled variations that help to tailor the appropriate degree of strategic sophistication to any gaming group. So I think what we've aimed for is accessibility and broad appeal.
I'll tag along on Dave's answer and just explain real quick on the scalability. We have rules in the game that would be fun for 8-year-olds so that they aren't necessarily playing with the harder spells or the dead ends or a random placement of the children. There will be a pre-laid out starting board where the children are easily located in a central location. They're easily reachable, and the majority of the fun would just be being able to take the shapes and line them up and make a path. Whereas we have rules for novices, we're calling the novice wizards, all the way through even the most seasoned game player, where there are immovable objects that are in the board that you have to build a maze around. Or we're working on another expansion pack actually where there will be each wizard will have a different exit. So you're all aiming for different locations, which means that you're all going to have to build different lines over the same spaces, over top of each other, and figure out how to work through that. So there's a lot of different rules that you can take in or put out. You don't have to choose all the rules for a single episode, single gameplay. Each gameplay is going to be different. Each setup is different. Each time that you go in, you can take out cards like the harder cards like Halt, which is basically that's my creative director there. So you can take out cards like the brick wall, which makes game play a lot harder because you're ending up with a movable brick wall in the middle of the game board. Or you could leave it in, or you could put in 2. Or if you want to use the fountain, which is an unmovable object once it's out, there are 3 of them in 3 different in 3 different sizes. You can put out 1, you can put out all 3. You as a gaming group have to decide what the difficulty level will be each time and then set up the board differently each time. So there's a lot of open-ended gameplay in it.
And it sounds like it leaves a lot of room for replayability. Is that right?
Yeah, what I like about it is that the game provides the foundation for every experience, but then it really leaves the variability in the hands of the players. So it depends. Like if I played this with my family versus my friends, or went to a board game cafe, it would be a different experience each time. So that's what excites me.
I love that it's a game that I love to play with my 10-year-old niece and nephew, and it's a game that I love to play with my regular gaming group.
Well, there you go. A game that you can play with your kids, that you can play with your game group, and I imagine that kids can play with other kids, I'd imagine, too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, minus coming to your hometown to stalk you guys, how can people go ahead and keep up with you or what you have going on with Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game, or anything that might come out of Silversmith Games in the future?
Great question. Glad you asked. Aside from the Kickstarter campaign, you can check us out on Facebook and Twitter, or on our site at silversmithgames.com. For there we have a development blog post, running development blog, and news updates. But we're also planning to work with Amazon for game sales and global distribution for when the game comes out. So it doesn't matter where you live. If you've heard this, then head to your local internet and you can get a copy of Pathwise.
Well, there you go. Awesome. And speaking of stuff that might come up in the future after, I know right now we're focused on getting Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game, funded and everything so everybody can play it. But is there anything in the future in your back pocket for afterwards or later on down the road?
Oh, yeah. We have a few upcoming titles in our development pipeline at various stages of completion. And so we're playtesting our next title now. And
any secrets you can spoil for us or share with us?
We may have inadvertently dropped the name in this interview so far. I don't know if that's too cryptic or not, but
oh boy, I'll have to go back and listen and edit and everything. Oh man, you're making my job a lot harder now.
So, David, do you mind if we just drop it then?
Yeah, go ahead. What?
We're working on Crystalline. It's a game based off of a mathematical principle of diamonds and how they fit together in different pieces, and it uses
more specifically Penrose tiles.
Penrose tiles, yes, and it runs off of mathematical principles of Penrose tiles and how they fit together, with the arcs in the shapes of in the shape of kites and darts, and how those two shapes fit together with circular arcs marked inside of them to match up color blocking.
It also plays on spatial sort of reconciliation, and we're exploring more abstract strategy games and developing in that game space.
Beyond that, we do have a running list of ideas, and we do have a third one that's much farther down the pipeline. So we're not really going to delve into that one, but we have 2 creative game players behind this company, and with more ideas that 2 brains can hold sometime.
Well, yeah, and it sounds pretty fun, but in order to help that along the path, we need to go ahead and make Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game, become a reality. So if anybody's listening and you like what we talked about, or you go check out the page, you scroll through, you like the art or anything about the project, go ahead and back it on Kickstarter. Let's see if we can make this a reality. It looks like you'll have through the end of the month, this December 31st, New Year's Eve, to back this. You can stay up late, 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can, but the sooner you back it, the better off we'll be, because then we can try to go for those stretch goals. Because I imagine you have some of those.
Oh yeah, we do. Different sage abilities and extra characters. It'll be fun.
Yeah, so everybody go ahead and stop what you're doing. Pull over to the side of the road, of course, so you can go ahead and click on the link on our show notes and check it out. And if you see anybody else pulled off to the side of the road, you'll know they're checking out Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game as well. Now, we don't want to keep you guys all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us to talk all about Pathwise, a dynamic maze building game that'll be on Kickstarter through the end of the year. We really appreciate it, Dave and Jeremy.
Thank you, take care.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Gamer Leaf levels up.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode and that interview. If you liked anything we talked about, go ahead and definitely jump over to the Kickstarter page. Click on the links in our show notes to show a little bit of support to Game Relief, as well as the great guests we have on and the great games we're bringing you. Do that on our Kickstarter Corner as well, so we can keep bringing you great games on the Kickstarters. But anyways, as I promised you earlier, we didn't get it out, but we got to get you a copy, or not a copy, but our review of Smash Brothers on the Switch Nintendo. So don't worry, we're still going to get that to you, as well as we'll have some great interviews in this upcoming week. Remember, we changed to Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for your listening enjoyment. But anyways, our least favorite time, your least favorite time for us to get on with our lives, you to get on with yours. In the meantime, I hope you'll get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into Geekfold. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.